Now goes out with Genesis chapter 33, I believe. So it's page 170, chapter 33, chapter 34, page 181. So we read how Dinah, I'll share the screen. So Dinah goes out. Dinah, the daughter of Leah, whom she had born to Jacob, went out to look about among the daughters of the land. Shechem, the son of Hamor, the Chivite, the prince of the land, saw her, and he took her, lay with her, and violated her. And his soul cleaved to Dinah, the daughter of Jacob. He loved the girl and spoke to the girl's heart. And then he tells his father, Shechem spoke to his father Hamor, saying, "Take this girl from me as a wife." Jacob had heard that he had defiled his daughter Dinah, but his sons were with his livestock in the field. And Jacob kept silent until they came home. He's waiting for his sons, which is already telling you that in this story, Jacob is going to take more of a passive approach that may be good, may be bad. But he's waiting. He doesn't say anything until his sons come home. They come home, and they're very upset, of course. Then verse 6, and Hamor, the father of Shechem, went out to Jacob to speak with him. Jacob's sons had come from the field when they heard, and the men were grieved, and they burned fiercely because he had committed a scandalous act in Israel, to lie with the daughter of Jacob, and such ought not be done. Okay, and Hamor spoke to them, saying, "My son Shechem, his soul has a liking to your daughter. Please give her to me as a wife, and intermarry with us. You shall give us your daughters, and you shall take our daughters, and you shall take our daughters for yourselves. You shall dwell with us, and the land shall be before you. Remain, do business here, and settle here." And Shechem said to her father and to her brothers, "May I find favor in your eyes? Whatever you tell me, I will give. Impose upon me a large marriage settlement and gifts, and I will give as much as you ask for me. But give me a girl for a wife." Basically, he's willing to pay a dowry. Everything is good, whatever you want. Now, verse 11 is interesting. And Shechem said to her, verse 12, 13. Thereupon Jacob's sons answered Shechem and his father Hamor with cunning, and they spoke because after all he had defiled their sister Dinah. The Torah is already telling you that there's cunningness here. Now, is it good to be cunning? Of course, not necessarily, but it's always the tactic of the weak versus the strong, right? If you're outnumbered, you're one little family sitting in a city that's obviously a large city or larger than your family, and there's many tribes, you're new to the town, you're in the weaker position. So the weaker position can't always be honest, right? That's the way it is. The weaker person is going to be cunning. And they answer with cunningness, and the Torah seems to be justifying them, because the Torah says, because in the English here, the translation I'm reading, you probably don't have it because it's just the translation. But the English I'm reading on the screen, it says, "Oh, he does, because he had defiled their sister Dinah." So it's like, so justifying they're allowed to be cunning. Okay, what is the cunningness? They said we can't do it. So that right? I mentioned this last week a little bit, and they said to them, "We cannot do this thing, to give our sister to a man who has a foreskin, for that is a disgrace to us. You want to marry us, but with this, however, we will consent to you, if you will be like us, that every male be circumcised. Then we will give you our daughters, and we will take your daughters for ourselves, and we will dwell with you and become one people. If you do not listen to us and be circumcised, we will take our daughter and go." Their words pleased Hamor and Shechem, the son of Hamor. And the young man did not delay to do the thing, because he desired Jacob's daughter, and he was the most honored in all his father's household. And Hamor and his son Shechem came to the gate of their city, and they spoke to the people of their city, saying, and here the story takes a crazy turn. They speak a few words, we'll see what they talk about, and the entire city decides to circumcise. Okay, now what do you do? So then the two sons, on the third day, when the most in pain, two sons, Shimon and Levi, go and wipe out the entire city. They kill everybody.
Those are the sons of Jacob.
Two sons of Jacob kill the entire city. And the other 10 don't participate in the massacre. Jacob is not happy, but we'll get, as we mentioned last week, we'll get to the details of the discussion and the back and forth. It's a long story, but all the way at the end, the last two verses of the story, verse 30 and verse 31. Just going to share that very quickly. I mentioned this last week, so I don't want to spend too much time on this. Thereupon Jacob said to Simon and Levi, "You have troubled me to discredit me among the inhabitants of the land, among the Canaanites and among the Perizzites, and I am few in number. And they will gather against me and attack me, and I and my household will be destroyed." He says, this is terrible policy, right? Now the surrounding nations are going to surround them and take revenge. And they said, "Shall he make our sister like a harlot? And that's the end of the story. They get the last word, and they say, "What are you going to do? You're not going to stand up for the honor of your sister. You just let her be violated." So that is the story. Again, there's a lot more in between of how this all unfolds, which we'll talk about. So, but this is just the framing of the story. Yes, go ahead, Steve.
One question.
Only one.
It may lead to others, but the term violation, is that?
Share teammate. They say, come right in, my shack. Chair. No.
No, we use the bathroom all the time.
Teammate means impure, defiled, yeah.
Well, the question being, in this particular context, do the rabbis comment that she was violated because she had a sexual relationship with an uncircumcised man, or because he forced himself on her?
Inui vaya'anea, literally, he violated her, is the way they translate in verse 2. Inui comes from the word to cause pain. But in the Bible, inui is rape. That's what it means. If you go against the woman's will, it's inui.
Did she want to marry him?
After, I don't know. Before, it's clearly inui, it's against her will. That's what it says. Vaya'anea. Afterward, I was mentioned last week, there is a medrash that says that she doesn't want to leave. And the reason why she doesn't want to leave, and the reason why she doesn't want to leave him, because in that culture, a woman who was defiled, nobody wants to marry her. So the woman would rather, that's the way it was. I'm not here to beautify anything. That's why the woman would rather stay with the rapist often, because otherwise no one would marry her. And that's why when the Torah says, in the Torah in Deuteronomy, the punishment or the punishment, one of the consequences. Thank you so much, Masha. Yes, one of the penalties of a rapist is that he's not allowed to. He has to marry the woman, of course, if she wants to, but he can never divorce her. Why would you have such a rule? Why would you have a rule that if you rape a woman, then you have to marry her and you can't divorce her? Well, the answer is because that was the bare minimum of protection a woman can get. A woman outside of marriage did not have any rights. Nobody would marry her. So that's why the Medrash says it's not clear. The Medrash says that she didn't want to leave. And the Medrash was a story that Shimon, her brother, had to promise her that he would marry her. And that's alluded to later in Deuteronomy, where it talks about Shimon's children. It says, the kids are, in short, it's a whole Megillah, but in short, afterward it changes. But before, it was clearly against her will.
Is it possible that she didn't want to leave before she might have been pregnant?
Possible.
And she didn't want to leave. She didn't want to leave without.
Possible. I don't know. Possible. Yeah. In other words, yeah. Here, but you have a book, you have a hat, whatever you need. Okay. What did we say last week? I like it so much. I'm going to say it again. I apologize to Neil. I apologize to Steve. I apologize to who were here last week. The question is that one of the interesting points about the story is that in the beginning, it seems like all the sons were on board. They all say, "Oh yeah, we'll marry you if you circumcise." At the end, only 2 of the sons go and kill out the whole city. Where are the other 10 sons? They went out for coffee. They forgot about the plan. So one theory would be that this whole thing, that the plan blew up in their face. This is not the way it was supposed to play out. The way it was supposed to play out is the people of the city were going to say to Shechem and his father, Hamor, are going to come to the people in the city. We want to marry this family, so we all have to circumcise. What happens if the mayor, he's going to be here soon, Red Camillo, comes to imagine the scene, comes to town and he says, "Look, I want my son to marry the Hebrews. So my son can't marry the Hebrew girl. So what about the entire Greenwich circumcises themselves?" What would you tell Fred Camillo? Jump in the lake. You're crazy, right? So that was the plan of the sons of Jacob. Plan is you make a condition that they can't meet. I'm nothing against you. I would love to marry you if you circumcise, and the whole town circumcises themselves. And the rational response would be, the expectation would be that people say, "I'm sorry, okay, we can't do it. Take your girl, go home." Right? Instead, what happens? This entire town, crazy people, will see why they do it, but whatever, for whatever reason, this terrible condition that they set, this high bar that they set, everyone circumcises themselves. Now they're in bigger trouble.
What's the name of the town?
Well, it's next to Shechem. Shechem, in the beginning of the settlement of Israel, the king would name the town for him or his son, right? The first city in the Torah is Cain builds a city, and he calls the city as the name of his son Chanoch. That's the verse. So the father is Chamor, he's the leader of the clan. He has a son Shechem, but no. Am I right? Shechem, yeah. The son is Shechem, son of Chamor. Chamor is the father, he's the leader. And Shechem later becomes the name of the city. That city is Shechem. Later becomes a bigger city. Shechem is a big city. Today they call it what do they call it? Nablus. I don't know what Nablus means, but whatever. But it's a biblical city. It appears many times in the Torah. Other trouble happens in Shechem. Joseph is kidnapped from right outside of Shechem by his brothers and sold as a slave.
It makes sense that the whole city, if it's named for Shechem, would actually agree to. It makes.
It's possible. Look. Would you fall off your chair if I tell you that the sons of Jacob expected the people of the Shechem to say, with all due respect to this little kid, the son of the mayor, we're not circumcising ourselves because you decide you want to marry a Hebrew. It's rational that the plan was that it shouldn't work. Now everybody circumcises themselves. So as I said last week, now we have a bigger problem on our hands. What's the bigger problem? What happens if we go and we say, oh, sorry, we're taking our daughter and going. Not only did you lie to Shechem, to the governor, you also lied to the whole town. The whole town's like, what do you mean? You cheated us? We all went through circumcision for what? Just because, and now you're gonna backtrack? So now we have a bigger problem on our hands. Now the sons divide. They don't know what to do. We don't know what are you gonna do? Now you're stuck. If initially you came out and you just said, you can't marry her, well, they wouldn't have any power to take her back. Remember, you have to understand that the balance of power in this family. And in this situation, in the scene, Shechem comes to them, and Chamor and Shechem come asking for their permission to marry Dinah, as if he needs their permission. The problem is Dinah is still abducted. They don't really have much choice, right? So they come as if we're here for peace, but they're not really here for peace. So this difficult situation. But once everybody circumcises, now there's a divergence in the sons of Jacob, because what are you going to do? So Shimon and Levi says, we have no choice. Now we got to kill everybody because we have to take our daughter by force. No one else in the town is going to allow us to take our daughter, not after they circumcise themselves. And the other 10 sons are reluctant to kill. So that's why only 2 of the sons on the 3rd day go and kill out everybody. That is what we said last week. And I don't know if this makes it better or worse, but we still have to go on and continue and talk about the broader act and how this was perpetuated. And if we could defend Shimon and Levi at all, if you want to, if you don't want to defend them, whatever you want, tell me, we'll try to do it. I wanted to say one thing about the brothers and Shimon and Levi. There's a very interesting contrast in the verses between Shimon and Levi, the ones who kill, and the brothers. And the Torah, I don't know why the Torah is doing it, but the Torah is doing it. So we're going to take a look here. Let's look at verse 25, where it describes what happens on the 3rd day. So in the Art Scroll, it's on page, did I say 35? 25. Page 185, verse 25. So page 185, verse 25, okay? So, and it came to pass on the 3rd day when they were in pain, means the townspeople who circumcised themselves. Shimon and Levi, Dinah's brothers, each took his sword, and they came upon the city confidently and killed every male. Of course, they're confident because everybody else, all the males are in pain. They're the only ones that are strong. And Chamor and Shechem, his son, they killed at the point of the sword. Then they took Dinah from Shechem's house and left. So this is the facts. Look at 27. The sons of Jacob came upon the slain, and they plundered a city which had defiled their sister. Their flocks, their cattle, their donkeys, whatever was in the town and whatever was in the field, they took. All their wealth, all their children and wives, they took captive, and they plundered, as well as everything in the house. Okay. You could read this verse, 27, as the sons of Jacob. But you don't have to read the verse as the sons of Jacob. If you want, you could read the verse as the sons of Jacob, except for Shimon and Levi, right? Because 25 says Shimon and Levi. 27 says Bnei Yaakov, the sons of Jacob. Sons of Jacob can mean all the sons of Jacob, or the sons of Jacob can mean the additional sons of Jacob. So let's stop for a second. Why does the Torah have to say they plundered, they plundered the city? So I think it's a critique. If you want to kill, what's worse, killing us or stealing or plundering? You would say, well, killing is obviously worse. Okay, but let's think about this for a second. If you're going to say, for whatever reason, let's say you have justification for killing. Let's say there was a justification for kill. Let's say we'll debate that in a second. Nachmanides, not Maimonides, debate this point, whether there was a justification for killing. Let's assume there was justification for killing for one moment. Is there justification to plunder? No. No. What is it? There's no justification to plunder. Why are you taking the things? Why are you stealing?
Because
So one second. So what is the Torah telling you? The Torah could be telling you either these people are less than moral, or the Torah could be telling you that the 10 brothers did not kill what they plundered, but maybe Shimon and Levi didn't plunder. And maybe Shimon and Levi were saying they did, they may have been right or wrong is a different question, but in their mind they were right. And they did not plunder, they did not go after the spoils, they did not go after possessions, which would then taint their claim to doing a moral decision, right? Because what happens if you kill someone, take the money, then you say, oh, I killed them because they deserve death. Well, we don't know because now you took their money, so maybe you want their money. Where do you see this clearly in the Megillah? In the Scroll of Esther, you have the story where the Jewish people have the right to defend themselves. And they go and they defend themselves and they kill a lot of people. We're making a celebration of Purim, but a lot of people were killed in Israel where they have the comment, they make the comedy, they have all kinds of a whole genre of jokes about how Purim is a racist holiday and the UN the UN condemned Purim. What does it mean? The Jews defended themselves and they killed 75,000 people and they killed 500 people. And there's a whole genre of jokes, like making fun, quoting the verses and making them a UN condemnation. What does the Torah keep saying again and again and again? So they killed 75,000 people. They killed 500 people in the capital and another 300 people in the capital in day 2. So 75,000 plus 800. A lot of people. Torah keeps emphasizing again and again and again. They did not touch any of the spoils. They felt they were under threat. They killed the people who they thought were a threat to them. They like it or not, makes it comfortable or not is another story. But the Megillah emphasizes they did not touch a dollar. They did not take anyone's possessions. And I think what that's doing is showing that they did it in self-defense. They did not do it because there was no financial benefit to doing that. Here, the Torah is doing the opposite. Yes, you may have had the right to kill people of Shechem, debatable, we'll get that. The fact that the sons of Jacob took the spoils is a little bit of a problem. Now, the question is, how do you want to read this? Do you want to say all the sons of Jacob? An interesting way to read it is, sons of Jacob were afraid to kill, but they took the spoils. Shimon and Levi killed, but they did not take the spoils. Now, I don't know, you read it any way you want, because the Torah doesn't differentiate clearly in verse 27, who is the sons of Jacob. It could mean all the sons of Jacob, but it could also mean all the sons of Jacob, with the exception of the 2 that we were talking about in the previous verse. So you have the choice how you want to read. Go ahead.
If you wanted to say the exception of the other 2, wouldn't it say with the exception of the other 2?
Yes, but maybe it doesn't have to. Maybe we say Shimon, Levi, talking about Shimon, Levi, they say, however, sons of Jacob, right? That it could, again, I'm not forcing one opinion or I'm not even going to say it's my opinion. I'm not even going to try to sell my opinion. I'm just saying, I think that it's possible to read it in a way that it's a contrast. Because verse 26, 20, 20, 20, 25, 26, 27 is 2 sons of Jacob, Shimon and Levi, the brothers of Dinah. We're talking about them. And they did. Vayikhu until the verse 26. It says, and they took then they took, it's really and they took Dinah from the Shechem house and left. So all this is continuation talking about the brothers. It doesn't say, however, but it doesn't say, however, but the rhythm is however, right? This is what these 2 did. However, the sons of Jacob, if that's the way you read it, then it would be with the exception of the sons of Jacob. I'm not forcing this opinion. I'm not even saying it's my opinion. I'm just putting out how some people want to read it. Either way, this shows that there's a little bit of a problematic problem. The fact that they took the fact that you take the money shows that it taints your moral claim.
maybe they were idol worshipers, really, and they wanted this. There were idols in there and all kinds of stuff in there, and maybe Hashem.
It's very interesting that you say that. Who are idol worshippers? Shechem?
The brothers.
The brothers. So it's very interesting that
The other 2 weren't. That's how they have the courage to take.
it's very interesting that you say that. Very interesting that you say.
Maybe your sister.
Yeah.
Because they could have done it.
It's very interesting you say that because on the next page, the next story, Jacob and his family say, okay, we have to go back to Beit El to fulfill the oath to God, whatever. Jacob tells his family, take away the foreign gods from your midst. What does that mean? So some people would say he's referring to the spoils of Shechem. Because in those days, the idol worshippers, you had gold and silver. That's how you gold and silver with the deities, right? So you took your finest jewelry, gold and silver, and you formed it in the form of the deity. So at some point after the story, Jacob is telling his sons, or his family, he doesn't say sons, family could be other people in the clan, but he's saying literally remove the foreign gods from your midst so we can go back to God.
That was Jacob.
Yeah. So, but your point is correct that somebody has some idols here. Well, are they idol worshippers? That's already a little extreme. I would try to defend them. Many of them are my great uncles. One of them is my direct great grandfather. I don't know which one. One of them is my direct
Well, you made the correction.
of the sons of Jacob. And also you, same thing. One of them is your direct great grandfather, and the rest are your great uncles. So you don't want to come out too harsh against them. So I don't know if I would say, whatever you could say, you come in and you like the gold and silver, and it's nice, and they're dead anyway. They can't benefit from it. So why don't we take it? Yeah, but you see the contrast. The story of Purim, we don't take it. Don't touch it. You touch the money, it taints your claim to moral whatever the word I'm looking for, moral justice or correctness. Yes.
So few things. Abraham also doesn't plunder when he does his fighting with the kings.
So that's a little bit different. They plunder in the sense that correct. He says the people that are with me should take payment. Right. Yeah, but
Does that one even take a shoestring?
Yeah, for himself. He says only the people that were with me. So his armies, they paid the armies, but he didn't take for himself. Correct.
The other thing is, why did they take the children and the wives?
That's what you did, my friend. This is welcome to the Middle East. What do you think we're living?
So what did they do with those children?
I don't
and
know.
wives?
I don't know.
Did these people become Jewish people?
I don't know. Maybe that's part of the thing. But he tells the people, when he tells his family, take away the foreign gods. Maybe he's talking to them, to the people with him. Remember, it was very common. Abraham had no children, but when he moved from Iraq to Israel, he had, the Torah says he went with all the people that he possessed. In other words, in general, successful people had a clan, and people came to you and they worked for you, and they ate your dinner, right? So yeah, people would join. That's the way it is. It still is that way. I'm saying in certain traditional tribal areas in the Middle East. Yeah.
So they did one dina to us.
Yeah.
And we did many.
Of course.
in
Of course.
response.
Of course.
So it's
Okay, let's talk about the broader question. Is this right or wrong? Okay. The answer is that you take your opinion, right? It's basically the classic commentators, there's big debates between this. Before you get to the classic commentators, Jacob and his sons themselves can't agree if this was a good policy or not. Right? So that who needs greater classic commentators than Jacob and his sons? Okay. But even that could be, go ahead.
I'm just thinking.
Yeah.
If they only took retribution against Shechem from a tactical standpoint.
Yeah.
They knew that there would be consequences.
Oh.
So consequently,
Yeah.
they eliminated
Yeah.
those potential consequences.
Yeah.
From a tactical standpoint.
Yeah.
And killed all the potential.
Yeah. So that's the defense. The defense, even before you get to the justification, let's say you say we don't kill, we don't have to kill. But we have to get Dina out of the house. You have the right to go get Dina, right? She's being abducted. We have the right to go get Dina. Okay, so you have to fight your way into town. Right? No one's gonna let you take Dina. You can't go to the mayor's house and to the tribal leader's house and get the daughter. It's impossible. So you have to fight your way in. So who do you have to fight your way? You have to kill anyone that will possess a problem either on the way in or on the way out. Now, some people read that and say, unlike what I said today, that's the conventional way of reading it, is that was the plan to begin with. That's why they told them to circumcise themselves. They wanted to weaken them. They wanted to get them to be weak, and the plan was to kill them in the beginning. That's the way I read when I was a kid. That's the way they told us the story. And it's logical, except what I heard 2 weeks ago when I read this new commentary, and this was interesting to me. So how come only two of the sons, everyone else chickened out? Right? So that's why I like the new interpretation, that it's like, oh no, the plan failed. They weren't, as you mentioned. But to Steve's point,
Okay.
Steve's point is you can kill. Can't kill. But you can go get your sister. You can go get your sister. To go get your sister, you have to fight your way in, and you have to kill anyone who's going to come and kill you back. So you kill the whole town. Now, the whole town, how many people are in this town? I alluded to this last week. Is town, what size? Town of the size of New York, size of Connecticut, size of Greenwich. How big is the town? Town doesn't have to be that big. So if you want to sleep tonight with an easy conscience, and you don't want to think that they went and they killed 500 people, you can get away with thinking it was just a few tens of people. The town is a few clans living together. In biblical Israel, a city means a permanent settlement. That is a city. City doesn't mean that there are bridges and traffic and tolls and tax collectors. City just means permanent settlement. So it could be 20 people, it could be 30 people, I don't know. It could be 500 people, but then you're gonna have trouble sleeping tonight. So make it a little less. The point is, it doesn't have to be thousands of people. Also, there's only 2 13-year-old kids. How many, even if everyone circumcised themselves, how many people could be killed by 2 13-year-old kids? Before you know it, people will hear it. So it doesn't have to be that many people. But to Steve's point, we have to go in, we have to take our sister, we have to defend. Now, I'm going to defend Steve's point. I keep saying that Jacob is not happy. But let's look carefully at Jacob's what's the word I'm looking for? Jacob's resistance, or Jacob's complaint, Jacob's complaint. You know what he says? He doesn't say, hey, people, you just killed the whole city. You don't do that. That's murder. He doesn't say that. You know what he says? He says, what are the goyim going to say? He says, you know what's going to happen? He says, thereupon Jacob said to Simon and to Levi, you have troubled me to discredit me among the inhabitants of the land. So first of all, I have a bad name. But then he has a tactical issue. Among the Canaanites and among the Perizzites, and I am few in number, and they will gather against me and attack me, and I and my household will be destroyed. So this is not a moral claim. He's just saying it's a practical claim. It's a practical problem. You had this great policy in defending your sister. You went and killed the whole city. All the surrounding tribes are going to come and take revenge. We're all going to be wiped out. And what did you gain? But that's not a moral claim against Shimon and Levi. He doesn't say, people, where were you? Who educated you? Where's your father? Like I tell my kids, who's your father? Right? He doesn't say that.
You tell that to your kids?
Sure. I mean, like,
and how did they respond?
They're like, I don't know. Go ahead, Seth. Go ahead. Yeah.
Q. Even though,
Go ahead.
The test when they said, I really support how I understand. The way I understand it, but to me, I think God did this to get rid of all the idol worshippers, to get rid of all the idols, and that's why.
But if we take act,
that's why Jacob takes the position he does and does not berate
his children,
because he may even know this is what, and it says here, he's connected to Hashem.
Yeah.
And I know that's an odd.
No.
It's not.
No, I'm not. I'm saying
that's
you're saying God has a plan, and I agree with you. But for me to go and kill people, I need a moral justification. And the question,
done that before.
Usually not self-defense. The battle with Abraham, with deception, yes, but murder is already another whole level. But the point is this: that if I'm going to kill, I have to. It should be right. I can't say, I think God doesn't want us to get rid of you guys. But let's go to the broader point. So Steve says it's permitted because it's a tactical thing. You have to be able to get in, you have to be able to get out, and you have to be able to kill the people who are going to come and kill you, who are going to take revenge. That's the way it is today. You have a tribal dispute, you kill everybody because you're not going to allow people to come back and whatchamacallit. Terrible.
Excuse me for interrupting.
Yeah.
And the Torah also teaches us, if somebody is coming to kill you, you should kill them before they have the opportunity.
Yeah, there's a terrible story before the establishment of the state of Israel in 1948 during the battle. There was they call it the group of the Lamed Hey, the 35, and basically Gush Etzion was being surrounded, and Haganah, the Israeli whatever before Tzahal, they sent 35 people to reinforcement. They walked at night from Jerusalem, and they saw an old shepherd. And the old shepherd saw them, so they were spotted. And the guy says, the old shepherd, he's an old shepherd, we're not going to harm him. They let him go. That old shepherd ran to town, and they got all the tribes. They all came, all 35 were killed. It was surrounded, it was a battle, all 35 were killed. So that's the culture, you know what I mean? You can't let an old shepherd get away. That's what Shimon and Levi would say. Can't let the old shepherd get away, you have to kill everybody, otherwise they're going to come and they put you in danger. So that is the tactical response. Nachmanides does not accept it. Nachmanides says, you can kill Shimon, you can kill Shechem, you can kill his father maybe, you can't kill the whole town. Nachmanides is not happy with this situation. He disagrees with it. Maimonides has a very interesting approach. Maimonides says that it was justified to kill. And his proof is even Jacob, when Jacob says don't kill, his reluctance or his objection is not a moral one, it's a practical one. They're going to put me in danger. What is the justification to kill? So it's interesting. He says like this: there are 7 Noahide laws we know. There's 7. Jews have 613 commandments, but there are 7 laws that are universal. One of those 7 Noahide laws is dinim, to set up courts of justice. If you live in a society where rape could take place and there's no justice, you are violating one of the 7 Noahide laws because there's no justice, there's no law and order. And he says, if all the people of Shechem, therefore, are liable for death because of the immoral act of not creating a system that would prevent or prosecute or find a way to get the girl back, right? Jacob, Shimon and Levi, or the sons of Jacob, had no recourse, right? So Maimonides says everybody there is guilty. Now that's extreme. It's extreme.
That's
What
collective too.
it's not collective. That's the whole point here. It's not collective. Collective means that some people sin and everybody else, the people that are not morally culpable should get punished. Maimonides is doing it's a little bit extreme, but what he's doing is he's saying everybody. If I live in a society that does not establish courts of justice, that is the crime. The crime is not.
Yeah, but there's so many powerless people in any society.
Correct. So it doesn't. So maybe there's more for everybody. But I'm just saying, is there a violation? Could you say the people of Shechem were innocent? The rest of the town. Maimonides says unequivocally no. He says you're not innocent. You have to vote. You have to voice. Not necessarily in response to this one act, because maybe Shimon and Levi, maybe Shechem is a bully. But the point here is you cannot give a blank statement and said they're innocent. There's no innocence in a society where a rape can happen and there's no justice. That's not innocence. Now, that's what he says. Not everyone agrees with him. Nachmanides disagrees with him. I'm not selling a point. I don't get commission if you agree with Maimonides. So I'm not trying to convert you to that position. But I'm just putting out what people have been doing with the story for the past 3,000 years. But Maimonides is very uncomfortable with collective punishment. So Nachmanides says it's collective punishment and it's wrong. Other people say it's collective punishment, but we have no choice under these circumstances. We're weaker. We have to defend our sister. We have no choice. That's what it seems like the sons of Jacob are saying. They don't say everyone's guilty. They said we have our sister to defend. We can't let our sister be like a harlot. So the point is that they're saying we sounds to me that they're saying it's collective, but we have no choice. And Maimonides is saying, rethink the concept of collective. And by the way, this play I said last week, you open up the news in Israel, this debate happens every single day on the newspapers. Same exact point. You know, they have this town, the last 2 terrorist attacks came out of this town, and people say, well, you got to destroy the homes that are on the main street because all the attacks come from there. People say it's collective. People say it's not collective because you're harboring. So who's right? I don't know. I'm just saying these stories did not start in 2023. They started out 300 years ago. Who's right? The Torah doesn't say explicitly, so I don't know.
How is it possible that 2 men can kill all the men in the town?
That's my point. My point is, first of all, it can't be that many. It can't be 10,000 people. Because
after you kill the first few, everybody else is aware.
Not necessarily. Everyone's home in their bed. It's what do they call it?
So
Siesta.
3 a.m.
Everybody.
thing?
No, middle of the day. But everybody in the middle of the day is vacation, right? Everyone's napping. Everyone's recovering from surgery. 3rd day, everybody, all the men are in. They're all.
And as the wives,
When they were in pain, 2 of Jacob's sons, Shimon and Levi, they came in. It's all cunningness. You come in and say.
It's beyond that.
Yeah.
If you look at everything.
Let me say one point.
No,
I said I'm going to give you the last word. I'm going to give you the last word. I just want to say 2 things. I want to say 2 things. I want to say, number 1, that it's cunningness, and number 2, that's why the smaller the number of people it is, the more logical it becomes. That's another reason to say that when you say the city of Shechem, we're not talking about 100 people. But if you're talking about, you come into a few tents, a few homes, and say, I'm coming to visit the sick. And you come in and you kill a few people and you leave before anyone notices. You can do this you can replicate that a few times to a few households. So that's another reason why you want to say it's fewer people. I'm fine. Seth, you get the microphone.
No, I forgot.
Oh, no. That's my tactic. My tactic is to delay.
Now, did it come from God or from you?
My own ego. I'm sorry.
Do you know definitively that they were killed during the day as opposed to the night?
Let me see. Vayom HaShlishi. Vayavo al ir betach. So it says on the third day, it doesn't say Bayom. Typically, you would say night. If it would say night, it would say no indication that it was at night, but it also says they came confidently. The verse, the betach means with certainty, they're confident. The feeling you're getting is not people who are sneaking in at night when everyone's asleep and they kill them. They're confident. Now Rashi says confident means they believed in God, they thought God will protect
These are
them.
the two brothers.
Yeah. But the first interpretation is Rashi is betach, they're confident because everybody is weak. Everyone's in pain. Everyone's in pain, so they have a unfair advantage. But my point is, nothing in this verse says that it was at night that hiding. But I think it must. They can come in and say, "Okay, we're killing everybody," and go from tent to tent. That wouldn't work, right? So they come in, they kill 2 people, they go to the next house, kill another 2 people. It's not that.
So
I would say it's not that hard, but I never tried it, so I don't know.
you're not in the Mossad.
I mean,
Yes.
we talked about collectiveness. We also have to assume that the people were cognizant that this act took place.
Correct.
If they weren't cognizant,
Correct.
then I don't think they coupled.
So
that you're saying that Shechem's an autocrat.
So
What are the people gonna do? Right?
you're
Are you not saying that?
No, essentially what I'm saying, okay, a raid took place, but how did we can't assume that the other townspeople were aware that this took place.
Correct. We cannot assume that, even though they know that there's a story, because the Shechem is coming to them and saying, "Marry me. I'm circumcised, so I will marry Dinah." Someone say, "Oh, Dinah, where is she?" "Oh, she's in my basement." Right? So
Said he loved.
he said he loved her, but he also loved her, but he kept her locked in her basement. You remember, it's not like he raped her, let her go home, and then go to her father and say, "Can I marry her?" No, he abducted her, raped her, kept her in his house, and then goes to the father and say, "I love your daughter so much." Really? Maybe let her go home? Right? So you have to understand, whatever he says, yeah, he does love her, he does want to marry her. But remember that he's not the most kindest groom for you know what I mean?
But the term love.
He does say love and
Many-
desire. It's incredible.
Many times used in the Torah alludes to a sexual relationship.
Yes, but it's actually interesting. There's a medrash that talks about there are 5 expressions of love that is used in this context. No other marriage in the Torah. We are not in this story. He wants to marry her, and there's 2 types of rapes in the Torah. I mentioned it last week. There's the rape. There's the other story. The other specific story is David's children, where Amnon rapes Tamar, and there after he takes advantage of her, he hates her. Here it's different. So he does want to marry her. Again, he's not a tzaddik. I wouldn't want it for my son-in-law. But the point is, you have to. It's a mixed bag. He wants to marry her. He likes her. He loves her. There's no question about it. But make no mistake. There's no equality in this relationship. She can't go home, right? So keep that in mind. So he appears as such a beautiful, romantic guy. He's trying to get everyone to sacrifice so he can marry the girl he loves. Let's not get overly impressed.
So at the end,
Don't put him on the Hallmark card or whatever they call those. Yeah.
so towards the end of Genesis, Jacob, when he's dying,
Yeah.
he talks about this
Oh,
story.
he talks about the story. So let's get to there. I want to go there. We'll go there. Okay, fine. But so hang on a second. Thank you. I don't have my notes, so you're helping me out. Thank you. But before that, I want to just say, but your first question is, did they know? Steve's question is, did they know? Did the people know? Maimonides would say, it doesn't really matter if they know this about this story. Maimonides says, this is a society where there is no law and order. There's no police force he can go to complain. If they would go. Right? That's the crime. The crime is not response to this story. Maybe in this specific story, they can't expect the simple people to get up against the leader. By the way, tribalism till today, the way it works is it doesn't really matter who's right or wrong. What matters is, are you in my tribe or you're not in my tribe? And everybody, the weak and the powerful, both in the tribe would say that. So it's not like, oh, some people here are weak. No, that's the culture. The culture is, if someone from my tribe does something wrong against your tribe, I'm going to kill you because you're wrong, because you're not in my tribe. That's the problem with tribalism. That's the problem with trying to create a nation like in Afghanistan. Not going to work. It's a tribal country. The concepts of morality, the way we understand it, which is there's something that's right objectively. Don't apply to tribal society. It's a tribal society. What's right is what my tribe does. What's wrong is what the other tribe does. And that's what you're getting here. Maimonides says that's the crime. If it's right because someone that's the crime. And Maimonides says it doesn't mean we have to go and kill out every tribe because they don't have courts of justice. But the point here is you cannot come and say these people are innocent. You're not innocent if a rape can happen and there's no way to get justice. That's what Maimonides says. Again, people disagree with him. Nachmanides who lived after him disagreed with him. Right? It's not like I'm just saying there are different opinions about the story, starting from Jacob and his brothers to the classic commentators, probably on this call as well, on the Zoom also. There's probably disagreements. What am I going to do? I don't know. We're Jews. We don't have to agree. I want to get back to your point about Shimon and Levi. Yeah, about Jacob before he passes.
And we have the highest opinion of Levi later in the story.
Oh, later in the story, which is funny, right?
So Levi is like the tops, because Moshe comes from Levi.
Yeah. I have to bring my put on my Hebrew school cap.
Very exciting.
Have a little narrow piece for you so that you still feel
What,
like.
lights?
No, the ceilings.
Oh, ceiling,
You've always
right.
been in ceilings that were,
Right.
so welcome to the new building.
Thank you.
And I think next week, in 2 weeks from now, Hebrew school will be in these rooms and you guys get the big room.
Yeah, I'm lobbying to get
big
upgraded.
showroom.
I'm lobbying to get a better section of real estate. We'll see what happens.
So just
Yeah.
so to this point, we have the highest opinion of Levi later on in the
Yeah,
story, right?
let's look at the story.
Jacob's
Jacob,
our guy, and Shimon drops to the bottom of the.
Shimon drops to the bottom of the pile. Levi, remember who wrote the book. In other words, the 5 books of Moses and the tribe of Levi. I understand, but the point here is, why does Levi become chosen?
Because he's the most observant of the Jews.
Correct, but there's also a little bit of violence in that story.
Well, what?
Violence.
Go on.
They did not serve the golden calf. Not only they didn't serve not only they didn't serve the golden calf, but they went and they killed the people, the 3,000
Right.
people who served the golden calf. Moses, before he dies, not Jacob, Moses before he dies, praises them for that, according to the conventional interpretation. Let's read what Moses says. I'm just saying that violence. What did Moses say at the end of his life to tribe of Levi? He loves Levi because he's from Levi. He says like this. Levi Amar, page 1,000.
Both his mother and father from Levi.
Yes. So Levi said, your Tumim and your Urim befit your devout one. Turim and the Urim is the breastplate that the high priest wore. It befits your devout one, which is the high priest, whom you tested at Massa, whom you challenged at the waters of Meribah. That's it. The one who said of his father and his mother, I have not favored him. His brothers he did not give recognition, and his children he did not know. For they, the Levites, have observed your word and the covenant your covenant they preserved. What is the verse saying before we get to Rashi? The verse is saying they told their father and mother, I don't know you. They told the brothers, I don't know you. Told your sons, I don't know you. What is he saying? Rashi says he's saying they would potentially, or maybe even practically, killed relatives that were related to them who served the idol. Not your son, because your son is from Levi. We know Levi didn't sin. So Rashi says, well, biblical Hebrew, grandson is son, father is grandfather, brother. So the point here is, what is this telling you? It sounds like a violent verse, but it's a beautiful verse coming from tribalism. What does tribalism say? If you're my brother, I'm going to defend you no matter what. If you're my family, if you're my tribe, I'm going to defend you no matter what. What happens to the tribe of Levi? They stand up for God. They stand up for morality when they believe that something is wrong, but they don't say. That's the test. The test is that they did not protect their own relatives. I'm just saying it's interesting. So Shimon and Levi, in fact, the violence is almost what got them the job, not the violence per se, the fact they didn't serve the idol, but part of that, at least from Moshe's perspective, they got the job because they didn't serve the idol. But what Moshe praises them, at least according to the conventional interpretation, is that when you had to kill somebody, you did. And you didn't say, he's my tribe member, so I don't kill anyone in my tribe member. So you say, that's what we're praising? Yes, the shift from tribalism to morality is profound. It's not an easy shift for people who grew up in that mentality. And some people still have that mentality. Whatever. Okay, I'm going to stop here. Go ahead, Seth.
That maybe this is a typo. Then Shechem said to her father and brother.
Yeah.
Is that a typo?
No, why would be that? Shechem said to her father and her brother.
First they say her, then they put it in the male gender. So why?
Her father,
It
Dinah,
said,
Dinah.
Then Shechem said to her father and brothers,
Yeah,
but mostly it says. Shechem was a brother, was a man.
Shechem was a man, but we're talking about Dinah, the girl he
No, it
raped.
says, then Shechem said to her father.
Who's her father? Who's her father? Who's her?
It's in the very beginning, there's something wrong here.
Maybe,
Chapter, line 11, page 183, I could be wrong, but they usually don't make typos.
Then Shechem said to her father and brothers.
But most every other time, here, Jacob's son answered Shechem and his father. It's man.
Shechem is male. Correct.
Because.
Because we're talking about Dinah. Dinah, the subject of the sentence.
Yeah, but it doesn't say Dinah said to her father and brother.
Correct.
It said there's something that is
So,
not.
so I think I'm onto what you're saying.
Correct here. It's not logical.
They are talking about that. Part of what's offensive over here is they're talking about the girl without asking her opinion, right? It's very funny when the brothers, when Eliezer was dispatched to get a wife.
I'm not reading it the same way at all.
But here's what I'm trying to say: when Eliezer is dispatched to get a wife for Isaac in the beginning of Genesis, so it had a whole negotiation with the mother or the brother, and then they say, "Let's call the girl. Let's ask the girl. You want to make a shidduch? Ask the girl." And the Gemara says, from here we learn that you can't marry off a girl without her opinion, without her consent, right? Here, there's a negotiation about the girl without consulting the girl. So maybe the Torah is highlighting that to Seth's point. Maybe the Torah is highlighting that by saying her brother, that Shechem speaks to her brother and her father, highlighting that, making that connection that they are the not the direct subject, they're both related to the subject. So why don't you speak to the subject? Maybe that's maybe the Torah is writing it in this way that highlights. Yeah.
I don't really understand, it's grammatical structure. It's like, you went and you spoke to my father and my brothers.
No, but why do you have to emphasize that? Why do you have to emphasize you're her father?
The gender's not changing in the sentence.
Her, Shechem is a man,
Correct.
but he says Shechem said to her father, so Shechem is now a her rather than a him. And there's something
No.
to me, I know I always, okay.
Our father and brothers,
I don't know.
Dina's father and brothers, I think.
It's not just, I'm not.
Okay, we're gonna revisit that. We're gonna revisit that. Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Seth. Go ahead.
You know, you say that he kept it in the basement.
He locked up. She didn't go home. Trust me.
Some
Yeah.
men, when they love somebody, that's their way of showing, I will do anything for you. I love you so much. I know your father's gonna.
But I wonder what the girl likes about
I'm
it.
not saying he's right.
I wonder what the girl thinks about that. I like that idea, but you have to ask the girls.
This is a show. I don't think I would do it.
Yeah.
I'm not condoning it, but I know that men do
Yes,
things.
yes,
They love
yes,
somebody.
Yes, yes,
They will, some people take a bullet.
yes.
Well, wait a second, I'm reading this sentence very differently. I'm reading it, and it changes the meaning of the story, that he said to Dina's father.
Yes.
The substitute for her,
Is Dina.
Dina.
Yes.
Then Shechem said to Dina's father and brothers, let me gain favor in your eyes, and when it begins, that's the way I'm reading.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
maybe
I think that's right.
Okay, so, yeah.
Michael, go ahead, please. We want to get some input from the Zoom.
Hi. So when Jacob is about to die, he's giving blessings to his son, and he rebukes his older sons. Does that enter into the
Yes.
equation to our
Yes, let's do
discussion?
that right
And
now.
does that distinguish between all sons or just the older two who is more
Yes,
guilty?
let's get into that right now. We have exactly 8 minutes left. We have 8 minutes left. Let's get to that because this is a very, very powerful point. And the Rebbe has a beautiful commentary. Today's Rebbe's birthday, 11th of Nisan, 121st birthday.
My son's birthday too.
Oh, really? Beautiful, beautiful.
And it's
Must be a great experience.
Really? Nice. Okay, so, and there's someone else's birthday here who asked not to be named, but there's a lot of celebration, a lot of good energy in the air. So I want to say this idea because it's a beautiful idea from the Rebbe, but first to the point, let's go to the verses. Who got the last word in the story? So far, the brothers, but the story is not over till it's over. At the end of the book of Genesis, Jacob on his deathbed gets the last word. And what happens, as Michael alludes to, he wants to bless all of his sons. He does not bless the first three. Reuven, he doesn't bless for whatever reason. We'll get to that later. Shimon and Levi, he does not bless them. So let's read. Let's read what he tells Shimon and Levi. In the Art Scroll, it's on page 5 and 6. I'm sorry, what am I saying? 277, verse 5 and 6. I'll try to share it very quickly. I'm going to spend too much time on this, on the turning of the pages. Okay, let's go quickly to see what I'm doing here.
So you want to maybe a comment?
Yeah, I'm going to go quickly to this if I can find it. Okay, Genesis chapter 49. There we go. Okay, so right, so he says, 5. Simon and Levi are brothers. Stolen instruments are their weapons. So first of all, Simon and Levi are brothers. He's referring to something that they did together. This is probably the story. Stolen instruments are their weapons. What does it mean, stolen instruments? The beautiful, very poetic Rashi quotes the Medrash. They stole the craft of Esav. When, I know some people here love Esav, some people don't like Esav, but what's clear, no, I'm not saying it. But what's clear is when Isaac blesses his son Esav, you know what he says? When Isaac blesses his son Esav, you know what he says? Al char b'chaticha, you'll live by your sword. And Esav becomes mighty, and becomes the Roman Empire, strongest empire that ever lived. We, Western Europe, United States, we have the strongest army in the world. We're Esav, we live by our might. We use it for good things 100%, but Esav gets the blessing of the sword. Jacob says, you went and you killed the whole city with a sword. You stole their sword from somebody else. It's not your sword. That's what he says. Let's continue. Verse 6.
Magic sword.
No, it means a little sword. It means a literal sword. It says they killed Shechem, and think by the mouth of the sword. So it emphasizes this. Jacob didn't forget that. Jacob said the sword is not the Jewish way. Now, sometimes you have to do it, but Jacob doesn't like it. Again, doesn't mean Jacob's right. This is Jacob's perspective. Jacob says, you stole the sword. Okay, let's continue. Let my soul not enter their council, my honor you shall not join their assembly. For with their wrath they killed a man, and with their will they hamstrung a bull. Rashi says, what do you mean they killed a man? They didn't kill a man, they killed many people. Rashi says two things. First of all, that for them it was as easy as killing a man, but then he goes into biblical Hebrew, many men could be a man, many oxen can be an ox. That's just the way it works. So let's accept Rashi for a second. We're talking about killing the people, killing the people of Shechem. So he curses them. Verse 7, cursed be their wrath. Okay, fine. There's an absolute beautiful interpretation from the Rebbe on this verse. What's beautiful? What's beautiful is, if you continue verse 6, and with their will, they hamstrung a bull. What does it mean with their will, they hamstrung a bull? They uprooted a bull. Who's the bull? So Rashi says, I believe Rashi says it, if not Rashi says it, the Medrash says it. They wanted to uproot Joseph, who was called an ox, as the verse says in Deuteronomy. Moses likens Joseph to an ox. In other words, what is he saying? These people are violent. What do? They killed the entire city of Shechem, and they uprooted the ox. What does it mean they uprooted the ox? They were instrumental in the sale of Joseph. I know that everybody was, there were 10 brothers in the sale of Joseph, which will be next parsha, but Reuben, the oldest, was not there that we know. So after the old one, who's the next oldest? Shimon and Levi. They're instrumental. There are other references to the fact that they're instrumental in the sale of Joseph. He says, I don't like their wrath. Why? Because they killed the entire city and they killed Joseph. Says the Rebbe like this. If they came and they just killed the city of Shechem. So what are they saying? We did it because it's right. That's what they say. Well, our sister be like a harlot. We did it because it's right. Jacob is silent. What am I going to say? What are you going to say? They have a claim of morality. Problem is, later you went and you sold Joseph. You did not stand up to the defense of your sibling. Okay? So now what are you saying? I killed the whole city because I defended my sibling? You defend your sibling, really. So why'd you sell the other sibling as a slave? So in other words, it's not just about the action. Is the action right? Maybe about the action itself. Jacob's silent. I can't argue. You claim that you did it because it's right. Maybe it's right. But the critique over this action comes only after the sale of Joseph, which means if you're doing the right thing, if you're doing the morally just thing, if it's a violent thing, you can't just do it if it's right. You also have to make sure that you're doing it with the proper intention, that you are not tainted by your own negative nature. And the test would be, how do you treat your brother when there's no external threat, but it's just your own, you want to sell your brother Joseph. So don't tell me you're defending your sister if you're going and you're killing your brother and you're selling your brother. So the point here is, maybe it was right. Maybe when you engage in violence, sometimes it has to be done. And sometimes it has to be done and sometimes it's the morally just act. And according to the Rebbe's interpretation, that's not what he's critiquing them about the action, because then he would have critiqued them earlier. And in this story, he doesn't, he gives them the last word, right? But now he says, but then you sold your brother. Now we see that even when you did it, you may have done a just act, but you probably didn't do it with a pure heart. And that's the critique. And that's why he says, cursed is your wrath. It was just your own ego, your own anger that got you to do it, but you weren't just doing it because it's the right thing. So according to this interpretation, it's a subtle interpretation. Did they do the right thing? Yes. Did they have the right intention? Did the negative character get involved? At least the father says, I'm a little suspect of you because, yes, you're defending your sister, but tomorrow you're selling your brother. It wasn't that long later, by the way. It was a few months later. So that's the Rebbe's interpretation. That's the Rebbe.
Intention. They follow their intention. If it's a bad intention, they follow it. If it's a good.
Let me give you an example. Let me give you an example. Seth, let me give you an example.
Okay.
Let's say parent has to discipline a child. And let's say a principal, let's say a principal has to discipline a child. And let's say in this case, we all agree that this child needs discipline. But if you think that your principal is a cruel person and they don't have compassion, then you don't want them disciplining your child. Yes, maybe the child requires it, but you're not doing it for the right purpose. So you're not doing it in the right way. What's the test? The test is, are you mean to this child when he doesn't require discipline? Right? That's what's happening right here.
No.
1 second. So that's what's happening right here. Go ahead. Take it away. You get the last word. Take it away.
I don't want to.
Okay, you'll get the second to last word.
Who's favorite?
Seth, you get the second to last word. I'll take the last word. O'Neill will take it. Go ahead.
I don't want to listen, but I have two questions. So you said something very interesting comparing and contrasting Dinah with Joseph, right?
Yeah.
So are you now saying that Joseph knew that his son's soul was Joseph?
According to this interpretation of Rashi,
That's a new thing.
according to this interpretation of Rashi, that when he says B'Ritzonam with their wrath, they uprooted an ox. And according to Rashi, what's the Medrash in Jerusalem Talmud that it refers to Joseph, it means that Jacob, in hindsight, was not as gullible as you thought he was. After he put the pieces of the puzzle together, at least suspected. He didn't say it explicitly, at least at the minimum, he suspected that it wasn't so simple.
So is this the first
Explicit, yes, yeah.
thing that we know that Jacob?
Explicit allusion, yeah.
So that's really interesting.
Yeah, it is.
I'll
It
think about
is.
that.
It is. Yeah.
Second of all, isn't there a connection now between when Rebecca tells Jacob to go fool your father with
Yeah.
the meat, and he doesn't come back with the moral, I shouldn't lie to my father. He
Right.
says, how am I going to get away with it?
Right, practical, yeah, and that's what happens here.
Practical and
Yeah.
not moral.
Yes,
at the
tactical,
high
yeah,
grounds.
yeah, interesting.
And so, can we learn from this that Jacob didn't learn from when he fooled his father all those years ago? He didn't actually learn the lesson. Is that one of the things we could conclude?
It could be,
I
yeah.
love you. You are the great. Fine.
Someone said
Someone.
true. Someone-
All the. I'll buy you a drink. Unbelievable. I like.
That is certainly a legitimate interpretation, in my opinion. Okay, it's been a wonderful spending time. We went 2 minutes over. I apologize in advance. Those who want to stick around, yes, those who want to stick around for 11:30, or go and come back, or come back.
Or you could keep it another 58 minutes.
Very much.
Thank you, Michael.
If you taught us another 15 minutes, then we could say
After
90 minutes
11.
over, but 15 minutes.
I just want to say,
Go
I
ahead,
think that this whole thing is about the little Hashem.
Yes, From Jacob saying it's Chilul Hashem, but the question is, besides Chilul Hashem, is there an underlying moral problem? Chilul Hashem means it's going to give us a bad name, and that's bad for God's name because we represent God. But that's a secondary issue. The underlying issue is it a just act? Is it morally justifiable? Even if it is, and people think it's not, then you have to deal with the PR. Chilul Hashem is more like a PR problem. It's a PR problem. Now, PR sometimes are important because you carry, it's not you. When you're a Jew and you do something, no one says, this Jew did something wrong. They say all the Jews did, or God's people did, right? So you bear.
Using us a plundering.
Yeah, but the point is, you're not an individual, you carry God's name, so you have additional responsibility. But the point here is, in addition to that, the question is for us internally, is this moral act or not? And this debate, Nachmanides says no, Maimonides says yes. Who's right? Don't ask me. What am I? I don't get paid that much to tell you who's right between Nachmanides and Maimonides. I don't know.
God wants us, you see, God told us when we got the 10 Commandments, we didn't listen.
Right.
So God knows now that we are stiff-necked people.
Yeah.
So the only way to teach us is to demonstrate through pain, agony, and then figuring it out. That's we have to know for ourselves, or else we never learn.
It's safe to say there's no wisdom like experience.
We don't listen to God. We just do whatever.
But now,
3,300
years later, we have all the pain in our history. And from here on, we learn to be eternal. No, from here, I disagree with you. We had plenty of pain. And from this point on, all the lessons should be internalized with happiness, with joy, with comfort, and with blessing. Yeah. Okay. Wonderful day, everybody. Thank you. Yes.
Clay Hamas.
Yeah.
Hamas is a very nasty word. It refers to before Noah,
Yeah,
right?
Hamas, and this, but what the chaos in the world before the flood was, Hamas means robbery. There was a society where nobody respected each other's property, and there was just constant stealing from each other. There was no regard for other people and this is
says Clay Hamas. That's really, I mean,
it's robbery. Yeah, it's evoking that evil. Yes, but technically it's not diverging because technically it's a theft, but it's a theft that led to murder. So,
is there an organization called Hamas?
yes, I read about them in the press, unfortunately.
if you watch Fowler, you might. I watched Fowler.
My.
Okay, wonderful day, everybody. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.